of the TooFatLardies 2020 Advent calendar. Less than 1 week now till the big day itself. I'm sure that, like me, you're getting very excited. That packet of chocolates in the cupboard will need to wait for a few more days. But time to perhaps have a glass of mulled wine as we join Sid as he tells us all about what could be coming his way from the wargaming fairy.
I'm normally sending emails and text messages to friends of mine who are able to do 3D printing to request all sorts of nonsense relating to 2mm German buildings or campaign figures for the late 17th century. So I think in asking the Wargames Fairy to bring me a complete bundle of finished armies and a complete set of Lardy rules, I'm going to have to set my sights a little bit higher than I normally do. So if my luck's in, I'm going to ask for something which I've coveted and wanted for a long time, but I've not actually done anything about. So first of all, scale. Well, if the Wargames Fairy is going to produce completely painted, converted armies, I'm going to go for 28mm. There are so many advantages to 2mm or 6mm or 10mm. I've talked about them on the Oddcast, written about them on my blog. There's so many advantages to those when you're starting a new period that I don't need to go into them here, but thankfully the Wargames Fairy is producing figures of any scale, so I'm going to go with a classic 28mm scale. So 28mm, but a small 28mm fitting alongside, say, Perry miniatures. And I'm going to go for a period that I don't have any figures in at all. At least a part of the world I don't have any figures in at all. And I think it's a part of the world in a war that just looks so incredible to wargame that I can't really believe it's taken me all these years to get around asking the Wargames Fairy for this period, or indeed buying any figures for it myself. So I bought a couple of books last year which are all about the long Turkish War, the Lange Türkenkrieg, between 1593 and 1606. And these are two books which I think are produced from Italy with joint Italian and English text and beautiful illustrations all about the wars on the Hungarian frontier and Croatian frontier in the late 16th, early 17th centuries. And these were engagements between Hungarians, Ottomans, Valesians, imperialists, all of the fighting in that frontier area in the Renaissance period. But unlike, I think, wars in Western Europe for the 16th and 17th centuries, which featured units in similar dress, the appearance of the figures in these books is so outlandish and unusual that I thought that, wow, this would just make an amazing period. And I think that's mainly due to the influence of the Ottoman Empire and that Eastern look, which is just absolutely incredible. So the figures in the books are bedecked with eagle feathers and huge long lances painted in a sort of a kaleidoscope of colours, silks, turbans and expensive dress. And even it seems that the figures for the more Central European Christian adversaries of the Ottomans in these books, even their uniforms appear to be slightly outlandish, with huge sort of trousers, elaborate sort of armour, and parts of their dress which seem to be taken to emulate their Ottoman adversaries. And I just thought that this would be an incredible period to try and paint up and would just look so colourful on the Wargames table. But it would also just take so long and would be so painful to do it in 28mm that it would be just ideal if the Wargames Fairy was able to produce completed armies right out of the box, so to speak. So rather than having to research all the costumes and colours of the various participants or their flags and standards and to endlessly green stuff and convert the figures to match them in these two magnificent volumes on the long Turkish war. The Wargames Fairy could do all the hard work for me, which would be absolutely terrific. So on the Ottoman side, we could have units from the Ottoman Sultanate, so Sipahis and Janissaries at the sort of Ottoman household. We have Kapakulus, which are the poorer Ottoman household troops. We'd have Delis, the madmen light cavalry from Croatia and Serbia. We'd have Tartars, we'd have Anatolians, and we have hordes of Akinjis scouting out in front of the Turkish forces. And on their adversaries on the imperial side, we could have Reiters, Austrian lancers, we'd have Hussars from Wallachia, we'd have Grenzers from the frontier region, and we'd have a host of different civic musketeers and pikemen to support a wagon train, which could be turned into fortified wagons to repel the Turkish horde. And I think on a Wargames table in 28mm, even our largest table, I mean, that would just look so iconic and so fantastic. Especially if the Wargames Fairy were also to create some period-specific and theme-specific terrain, so we can have some truly dark, foreboding Hungarian forests, some cultivated areas near a Wallachian village or Hungarian village, and maybe some rocky outcrops, and on top of them an old medieval castle in which a Transylvanian count or voivode is established in there under siege by the Turks. I would think that would look really dramatic on the Wargames table, really colourful, and a perfect sort of present from the Wargames Fairy, capped only by a set of rules which is written in the Lardy style, perhaps almost like a Renaissance infamy, in which the relative merits of the two sides are really encapsulated in good rules writing. I think that would be the perfect complement to a truly dramatic and impressive pair of armies and a really wonderful spectacle of historical terrain to look on as we recreate the Lange Turkenkrieg between 1593 and 1606. So I have a large present in front of me and it's all wrapped, and if I just peek and take the wrapping paper off, I wonder if that's what I'm going to find inside.
Remember, lard is for life and not just for Christmas.